My name is Mercedes García Arenal. I am a research professor at the Spanish Council for Scientific Research. My field is cultural history and history of religions, history of minorities in early modern Spain. I've been working at it for many years. I have been very interested also in historiographic matters regarding Islam in the early modern Iberian world. And today I'm going to speak about it, not only about Al-Andalus, but in a more general or wider framework. At the end of the 14th century, both in Italy and in Spain, but in general in what would be Catholic Europe, there is a movement, an anti-humanistic movement, which is that in front of the big importance accorded by humanists to the Greek and Roman past, there is a reaction to look for more sacred origins and for establishing a narrative which from these origins marks a religious narrative, a Christian religious narrative from biblical times to the present, mainly the 16th century. For us, for Spain, it is very important the work of a Dominican, an Italian Dominican named Annius of Viterbo, Annio de Viterbo in Spanish sources. This Annio de Viterbo was very stricken by the sack of Otranto by the Turks in 1480 and created a prophecy that he found in an old pergamene, etc., which prophesies the end of Islam. But he, most importantly, wrote, falsified, a chronicle that he said had been written by a Chaldeum called Beroso, with a B, Beroso, who was an ancient chronicle which was particularly relevant for Spain. It was dedicated to the Catholic kings, Ferdinand and Isabella, and spoke of the origins of these two kings going back to what is called the Hercules Egyptian, son of Osiris and grandson of Noah, the one of the Bible. He was expanding the Bible narrative, and the important point was the dispersion in all the world, in the Mediterranean world mainly, of Noah's sons and grandsons to repopulate the earth. And to Spain came Tubal, a grandson named Tubal. Tubal brought with him Phoenicians, such as Nimrod, who was the architect of the Babel Tower. And this falsification had an enormous impact in Spain. The most important official historians of the moment, Florian de Ocampo, Esteban de Garibay, both of them working under Charles V, the emperor, took as real this Beroso chronicle, and how it allowed to trace the origins of Spain over Rome and Greece and so forth back to the Bible, to link Spanish history to the biblical times and locations, to a sacred past that has been uninterrupted both by Greece and Rome and, of course, by the Islamic period. This is one of the many trends that started of what is being called pious fraud, in which every town, city, noble person in Spain started to make discoveries, miracles, scents that prove that the territory in question had been Christian from the beginnings of the times. There are many others. Jerónimo Román de la Higuera, a Jesuit this time, also falsified a chronicle that he said had been found in the German monastery of Fulda, attributed to two persons who were real, Dextro and Maximus, two Romans, who had produced a chronicle which went in the same sense that Annius de Viterbo. Annius de Viterbo is also very important for Italian history because he gave a lot of importance to Etruscans. So this historiographical trend, what it tries to do is, of course, erase Islam from, or limit Islam from the history of the Iberian Peninsula, but because it wants to give it back to sacred origins, connecting these origins to the biblical times. Tubal and the Phoenicians are very important. To put an example, Pablo de Céspedes, a well-known erudite who worked on the antiquities of Córdoba, said that what is now the mosque cathedral, the Cathedral of Córdoba, that the work of this mosque was too strong and solid to be attributed to the Arabs, and that it was obvious that Phoenicians have been building it. It is also the time of antiquarianism, so the search for, bones, coins, ceramics, that could prove a very antique origin, connecting it to Christianity, was a big wave that affects most of the territories in the peninsula. As I have said, also in Italy, also in France, but in the peninsula it is very strong. So it is not so much that they are trying to erase Al-Andalus from the official historiography, but also that they want to erase Rome and Greece. There is also another trend, which is the idea from the 16th century onwards that Arabic is an important language to know the history of Spain, and that Arabic chronicles are important for this history. Of course, from Rome, remember Cardinal Bellarmino, there is a strong effort to limitate and all these saints, all these pious frauds. But in Spain, there is also another fraud, a very famous one, which is known as the lead books of Granada, which are presumed ancient texts in Arabic, in Old Arabic, which were a sort of fifth evangelium dictated in Arabic by the Virgin Mary to Arab Christians, to his first disciples who had come to Spain to propagate Christianity and had received martyrdom in Granada. So there is also an effort to consider and incorporate things Arabic, separating Arabic from its Islamic tinge, saying that also Arabic can be a Christian language, and also that the Morisco, converted Muslim populations of this time, had been there from times old and had been, in fact, the first Christians in the Iberian Peninsula. Because I will finish with this, the aim is to sanctify the whole territory through remains, miracles, saints, invented, of course, most of them. The cult of St. James becomes a big thing. And to Christianize this territory, the effort is to find its origins in biblical times.